Welcome to AI Marketing, a podcast for sales and marketing professionals that want to increase their sales, leads, and conversions through the use of artificial intelligence solutions. And now, here's your host, Mark Fidelman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI Marketing. Today, we have one of my favorite subjects because I'm not a huge fan of SEO, even though I know we need it. But I believe, and I hope Chris believes, that it's going to be replaced with something related to AI and AI search. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, Chris, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Chris Andrew, co-founder and CEO of Scrunch AI. And I do think all of search is changing. And I think it's going to be better for humans. It's more connected to the intent of the question. And so we're helping brands optimize for an AI first customer journey. So thrilled to be here to chat with you.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I'm using AI to search for things more often than not. I'm using Google, and Google's got their Gemini, I think, is popping up more often than not. So I'm getting less and less involved with searching on Google and more with AI. The answer is just more custom. They're better. And it's very direct. It's actually answering questions. Now, I'm still using Google for other things, but AI search for everything else. So before we dive in too deep, besides your own tool, is there any other AI tool that you like to use in marketing or sales?
Marketing or sales? Great question. I'm a pretty big fan of the Google Notebook LM product. Being able to lean on your own corpus of data, right? Be that a Drive folder or all your materials, leveraging that to produce content in your voice is super powerful. Also a fan of Granola. I don't know if you use the note-taking app, but it just makes it really, really effective in capturing information on the fly, seamlessly integrating with notes you're taking as well. And so obviously in a world of high volume of activity, it's pretty important to have those notes captured. So, and then obviously the GPTs, perplexities of the world. I'm not going an hour without being in some AI platform.
Okay. That's amazing. You came out with two, almost three. I'm not used to that. All right. So let's jump right in to why do you think search is going to be replaced with AI? What's kind of your overall reasoning for that?
Very simply, I think it starts with the word browse. We've been browsing the internet for answers for the last 15 years and kind of accepted it. I go to Google, I ask a question, I get 10 links, I poke around the internet. I know the links are biased, they're keyword loaded, they're backlink inflated. I'm browsing. And we outsourced browsing to AI without realizing it. When I ask GPT a question, I ask Perplexity or Claude or now Google with an AI overview, I get an answer back. And so I think at its simplest, we as consumers, whether it's B2B or B2C, we move towards simplicity. And I believe all of search will simply be AI search. I think the new acronyms are silly, AIO, AEO, GEO. I think ultimately when we search, we want an answer. We want it to be personalized. We want it to understand my intent. We want a close match. And so my thesis is it's simpler, it's more effective, and it's a more delightful consumer experience. So really, I'm building in the space because I saw it personally impact my customer journey.
Okay. And when you say it impacted your personal journey, is that because you're just getting better responses from it, or you're just trying it out, or what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is I stopped visiting websites almost completely, right?
Wow.
If you think about what the impact is, and the reason I started the company, this is not about search engine optimization or a basic monitoring tactic. This is ultimately an entire shift to the customer journey. When I'm researching a product, a service, a company, something to do on the weekend, I'm in GPT or Perplexity, sometimes Google, but in all cases, I'm getting an answer, which is a synthesized, less biased view from the internet. And so that means my customer journey does not involve me clicking on 3 websites to evaluate them head to head. What is a model good at? It's good at digesting enormous sets of language. That's what large language models are good at. And so when that happens, I'm getting an answer back to my query. So when I say my personal customer journey changed, even before GPT had web search, I was relying on it to answer questions for me, knowing it was a year out of date. I was okay with that trade-off because it was that much easier. So I think the shift for a marketer is your brand is no longer what you say it is. It's what GPT says it is. Customers are less likely to visit your website early in the funnel. And that might not be the worst thing for your brand because I'm arriving informed. I'm arriving ready to transact. And so that's what I mean when I say it's impacted the overall customer journey.
Okay. So do you think SEO is dead?
I think that's a nuance. That's a great headline, right? I don't think it's dead because underneath the covers here, AI platforms are using SEO to discover what websites to spend time on. So you think about the flow behind the scenes. You or I ask GPT a prompt. It's looking at an index of search of websites and deciding which websites to look at. So the search engine ranking still has traditional relevance as the foundation. But what I love about AI is once it is evaluating content, it's doing it in the way that humans are designed, which is like it's reading it and trying to understand the intent of the question. So I think in the process of evaluating how to answer the question, search engine optimization is completely changed. In AI models determining which websites to look at, search engine optimization still plays a significant role.
But how do you optimize for these AI models? Is that something that we can even fathom doing?
Yeah, it's happening, right? So I think the way a human thinks. So I think traditionally we've looked at Google and said, okay, we need to write with the right number of keywords, the right number of backlinks. You're designing for a bot. Now, when you're designing for a human, you're trying to understand the intent of the question. And so we're seeing that language is what these models are looking for. They're looking to match the intent of the human prompt to the best answer, the best way to predict the characters that are going to show up in that AI generated answer. And so when you think about what's working is it's more content, more text based. It's FAQs, it's knowledge bases, it's glossaries, it's heavy text information clearly organized so that models can retrieve it and get the answer back to a consumer. The other thing with AI is it's really doing its best to be unbiased, right? Gone are the days of me looking at one website and saying, well, this is the best product. When AI is trying to help me evaluate, it's going to look at your website, competitor websites, third-party websites. So one of the things we see actually working from an optimization standpoint is providing comparative lists, being like, here are the top 5 players in the category, and put that on your own site, kind of progressive insurance style, comparing and contrasting and earning the opportunity to be cited by the model. And so I think, large language models are looking for language, and that long tail of content becomes far more critical. So we see companies bringing large data sets online to make content available to the AI crawlers to help answer questions.
And how does that work? How do you bring large data sets online without privacy considerations or I don't know what you mean by these large
Yeah.
data sets, but please explain that.
Yeah, I mean more just, you think about like product documentation. You think about maybe internal FAQs that maybe your support team had historically used. So not confidential customer,
Hmm.
private data sets, but internal repositories that were used for understanding and representing your brand, products, and services. I think one of the reasons we started the company was I identified that so many folks were organizing internal data sets for AI workflows, right? So imagine you're cleaning up your data, you're prepping it for RAG, you're trying to drive outcomes and make your business more efficient. Meanwhile, externally, every single piece of publicly available content is being looked at by these AI models to represent your brand, product, and service. And so we see really interesting examples of AI citing your website, but your website is 7 years out of date. It found an old pricing page. It found a community forum where people are railing on your products on your own domain, and you've never gone in and answered them. And so when AI is trying to assess your product, your brand, your service, it's looking at your content, competitive content, third party content. And so organizations tend to be bringing online new data sets that may have been private internally. They're not confidential, but they're designed to enrich the model's understanding and accurately represent the solution in the marketplace. So that's what I mean by bringing new data sets online.
Got it. Got it. Great explanation. So, how does the AI know that your website is credible?
That's going to go back to why SEO isn't dead, kind of to your original point. I know that
Mhm.
headline floats around, but to know that the website is credible, it's leveraging a traditional search index. And so what is Gemini powered by? Well, it's looking at Google search index. What is GPT powered by? Well, historically it's been powered by the Bing search index. That's kind of been the dirty secret behind the scenes is you do a GPT prompt, it's actually creating a Bing search behind the scenes and looking at the index. Now, OpenAI has introduced their own index, their own OAI search bot. That's really the first deep fragmenting in the search experience. And so when you think about what websites it's prioritizing, it's looking at traditional things in terms of brand authority, credibility. It's looking towards sites that are unbiased and are going to represent you and competitors. And it's going to go look at a mix of sites instead of looking at just one. But when I say search engine optimization isn't dead, it's because the model's way of retrieving content still relies on a search index.
But certainly those are going to go away, I would think. I mean, why would you need them if the AI is able to discern a lot of, the credibility factors and all that? Maybe it can't anytime soon, but don't you see this all moving towards AI search? It's just better. Everything's better about it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think what's going to happen here is we're the pace is unfolding faster than anybody would have thought, right? I mean,
Yes.
2 weeks ago in mid-March, GPT was adding 1 million users an hour during the image creation phase, right? The image creation craze there. This is hitting the mainstream much faster than people anticipated. And so, my belief is Google's index is always a little bit out of date, right? They're always periodically crawling the web. It's biased because we've gamified it, and black hat SEO folks have figured out tricks. I hate the concepts of tricks in the search engine space. The reason I'm building in this category is I believe AI is better for humans. It's helping me get the answer in a less biased way. So I do think the traditional controllers of this search experience, which has been Google for 99% of search volume, maybe slightly under that, has an attack. It's fragmenting. But again, you need to understand all of the data on the open web to rival it. And so the entry points for AI search have been built on historical search indexes, and GPT introducing their own is really an initial signal that that is shifting and could shift very, very rapidly.
Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, so what do you tell people now, marketers now that are heavily focused on SEO? They've built all these backlinks and all that kind of stuff. Are you warning them that, you're going to have to come up with a new way of doing, AIO, you know,
Mhm.
and what does that look like?
Yeah, I'm telling them they're going to need to come up with a new way to think of search. Again, I don't really buy into the new acronyms because I think all like search is about finding an answer. And
Mhm.
so I think all of these engines are going to move to being AI search. That's why you see Google cannibalizing itself with AI
Yep.
overviews. So when I tell them what to think about, I mean, ultimately, marketing is responsible for driving conversion. Whether you're in brand marketing, content marketing, account-based marketing, you're trying to drive conversion, whatever that conversion metric may be. And I would encourage marketers to be paying attention to the highest converting channels and think about how they put more arrows behind that channel. And what I'm here to say is that referral traffic from AI search is the number one converting channel at 95% of our customers today. And the
Wow.
reason is because by the time I'm done talking to GPT or Perplexity or AI overviews, I'm ready to transact. And I'm
Yeah.
talking about like significant B2B SaaS transactions. I'm talking about booking a restaurant reservation, buying a new pair of sandals. Like if you're doing your research in a traditional search experience, Google AI overviews is meaning you are not clicking on a website until you're further into your evaluation.
Yep.
Same, obviously, with GPT and Perplexity. So we're seeing organic conversion rates at 2 to 5x historic organic conversion rates, rivaling paid channels in some places. So when I tell marketers what to be paying attention to, I say go look at the numbers. Like you can see your referral traffic, you can track the conversion traffic from those new channels. If that's your number one channel, let's start paying attention to it. So we don't need to make up numbers or estimate volume. We can get in and measure the concrete reality.
Yeah. I mean, great point. I wonder if they're going to introduce ads into some of these LLMs. What do you think? You think they're
Yeah,
bold
it's
enough to do that?
it's super interesting, right? I think Perplexity, the team over there is super sharp. Taz running the paid programs at Perplexity is all about testing new ad formats top of funnel that fit more authentically into a consumer journey, right? And so Perplexity is running in a very limited way some really interesting ad experiments, and I'm very curious to be continuing tracking those. A number of our customers have connected with that team to participate. GPT has kind of said, Sam Altman at OpenAI has said, I really don't want ads. Now, I think that's going to change as they need to commercialize further. But if you had asked me 3 years ago, would I pay to search the internet? I mean, I think you and I both would have said no. Like, Google's good enough. Now I'm paying GPT for a better way to search the internet. So
Yeah.
maybe they're going to be able to commercialize effectively enough. And I also think we should see some really interesting models. One I'd love to see is microtransactions for clicks. So rather than a pay per click, marketplace, just pay for referral visitor. Just like have an ecosystem that every time one of these models sends a targeted visitor to your site, it wasn't thought of as a paid visit. You're just sending a super small microtransaction. If I were running paid at one of these platforms, I'd be thinking about testing things like that to incentivize organizations to better participate in the ecosystem. So I think we'll see some really interesting new models in that world, but it's definitely still emerging.
Well, if I were the Chat GPTs and Claudes, I'd have a one button purchase, and
Yeah.
an AI agent would take care of everything.
Yep.
That's where I think it's probably going to evolve to, but we'll see. They got to be careful, how far they go here before people start thinking I'm being hoodwinked because since these are paid ads or paid opportunities, I wonder if I'm getting the real information. And so that's what they got to keep that neutrality
Yep.
as best they could. So we'll see. But you brought up customer journey. I want to talk about that real quick. So, how do you see the customer journey changing as a result of all these changes that are coming, if not already here?
Yeah. It's one of the most exciting parts of the AI, the shift to AI search, in that, you and I are getting different responses from models. And that's because GPT has memory built in, right? It knows your background compared to mine. And so it knows your sophistication on a certain topic versus mine. And so what we see in our customer base is that, understanding your personas becomes more critical than ever, right? Let's pretend I'm a retailer. Is the person shopping, an affluent university student who's on a trust fund kid who's got a ton of disposable income and invests in like high-end fashion? Or is the person searching a tired single mother who's trying to outfit 3 kids with a back to school special? The model knows. And so the model is looking to return content and citations that are relevant to that persona. And so I think, we're all talking about everybody having their own agent. We're talking about everybody having their own, custom experience in this world with, image creation or videos or being the superstar in their own little film. The thing that's already happening is we're starting to get deeply personalized results back from the model because they know us. And so when I say understanding that customer journey, I mean that organizations need to start thinking about mapping to the experience for their specific set of buyers. And I think that's going to create a really interesting world. One kind of offhand example there is I'm actually on a panel or a keynote session in London coming up in June where the topic is neurodiversity in AI. And speaking with this individual who's highlighting how models are actually allowing people to map to the way their brain works, right? It's like, hey, translate this for me. Like my boss thinks in this structured way, and I think in this completely unstructured way. Now the model knows a little bit about how to cater information to me. And this idea that like we're going to be able to interact better with this intermediary who can understand and interpret an intent. And so I think customer journeys are going to get really, really interesting as those specifics get more detailed.
Okay, and look, I see because I'm very heavy into AI agents. I see these AI agents doing a lot of this automatically based on what it knows you need or thinks you need.
Yep.
So I wonder how that changes the customer. It's like the AI agent journey as well.
Yep.
Uh, so I don't know if you put any thought to that. That's not here yet that I could see, but I know it's coming.
Yeah, it's part of the customer journey mapping we're doing with some of our enterprise customers, which is simply looking at a tool like an OpenAI operator and running scenarios at scale, right? Sending it out to a website, to the open internet to research a topic and answer questions for me. to get pricing off of a page and see if it can succeed and identify the places that it fails on a website because of complexity or lack of clarity or lack of information. And so I do think we're early in that process, but it's going to unfold faster than prior technology shifts because agents are going to get integrated into the places we're already spending time, right? We're all spending time in GPT. They're building an agent. You better believe Google's building agents. Meta's building agents. Apple's going to build agents. They're all going to be connected online and offline. And so I think there's going to be an enormous impact with agentic experiences. But today, we've already outsourced browsing. We've outsourced browsing to AI crawlers to make sense of content and get answers back to us.
Awesome. All right. Well, fantastic discussion so far. How do, well, my final set of questions are out. How do marketers make money on this? What do you see? What should they be doing right now? Let's say they're a marketing agency, or there's somebody that is interested in taking advantage of this internally at a company. How do you see them making money on this?
Yeah, step one is to monitor and understand it. I think there's a lot of confusion around what you can and can't do, and I encourage organizations to track the four things that are absolutely measurable today. And that starts with one, how frequently are these AI agents, these crawlers, visiting my website? You can track that in a product like ours in your web logs. Go see how many visitors are coming from these AI platforms. The second is you can track your referral visits, right? How frequently am I showing up in these AI search results compared to my competitors, compared to my peers? What's my presence? What's my position? What's the sentiment towards me? And how much referral traffic is that driving? You can then track conversion. And that's the number one thing I'd be paying attention to if I was a marketer. I would be marching into the boardroom and saying, look, we just started tracking referral visits from AI search and it's converting at the highest level we've ever seen. We need to start thinking about relating better to these models to continue showing up or show up more prominently. And the last thing is you can track citations. How frequently is my content being referenced in these models? If you're tracking those four things, you're already ahead. And if you're starting to think about how you cater to these crawlers and agents and better represent your brand to them because they're the consumer of your content on behalf of a human, that's the shift that I would be measuring and monitoring if I were a marketer, really at any organization.
Yeah.
And I would deeply try to understand your persona. Like you're a B2B SaaS company. Do you think your buyer is in a GPT most of the day, building content, doing research? Probably, right? I speak with a lot of universities. Their students are only in these AI models doing homework, thinking about the future. If they're looking for a master's program, they're probably asking their model of choice. So these things are proliferating, and you really need to think about how your consumer, how your audience might be using them.
Yeah, just a follow-up question on that. Do you think you have to change the way you're structuring content to fit each model? Like Google and Bing are a little bit different, but are all these AI LLMs that different from one another that you have to think about how to structure it for each of them?
It's a great question. There's definitely nuance in the models, but they, as you watch, they kind of head towards the same direction, right? You see a new model come out and everybody kind of get to the same level pretty quickly. You see, Meta's models being open source and being available. You see a Perplexity mixing model usage between Meta, GPT, Gemini, and others. And so I think the models are moving towards a similar mode of operating. We definitely see different results for different models in our monitoring platform and how it's being captured. But I think ultimately they're kind of moving in the same direction. And you want to think about how does a large language model want to process information? Well, it wants language. It's either translating things into language or it's taking language you've created and trying to leverage it. So I don't see massive differences. We see different results, but I think it's going to be less. It's going to be less different in the future as these models continue to get better.
Okay. And let's end by talking about Scrunch AI. Tell us a little bit about it and what value it brings marketers or other people.
Yeah, so Scrunch AI is the company that we launched. We're helping organizations optimize for this AI first customer journey. So if you believe that fewer humans are visiting websites, we're outsourcing browsing to AI crawlers, you should be paying attention to this shift alongside your traditional content, SEO, and marketing process. We build out a deep understanding of your organization, map your customer personas, your competitors, and first and foremost, show you, if you're showing up in AI search, how you're showing up and what you can do about it. So many of our customers start with that deep monitoring compared to their competitors across all of the traditional AI models, GPT, Perplexity, Gemini, AI overviews, Claude, etc., and understand their presence. Now, from there, they're getting deep insights into gaps in their presence. You're not showing up for these topics and themes. These third-party content sources are dominating these results and you're not present. And so you end up with very actionable steps to address the gaps to improve your presence. And so we have organizations that are seeing, a 3 to 4x improvement in their overall AI presence. Our average customer is seeing a 40% growth in AI referral traffic in terms of month over month, how many new visitors, unique visitors they're getting from AI traffic. And so our platform starts as a monitoring solution. It moves into insights and recommendations to address those gaps, and then the closed loop time series monitoring to show improvement against it.
Wow. All right. So where could people find you and your and Scrunch?
Yeah. So scrunchai.com. If you book a meeting with us, we'll run a brand report for you to show how your company is showing up in AI search with some actionable recommendations as a free starting point with a session. So book a meeting to chat. My name's Chris Andrew. You can find me on most social platforms at Chris W. Andrew on Twitter, on LinkedIn. And honestly, very excited about speaking with marketers who are thinking about the shift to the customer experience. I think this changes everything about how you relate to and engage with your customers. And search and monitoring is the entry point, but ultimately we're looking at a very different customer journey, and we want to be the platform of choice to help enterprises navigate it.
No question. This is coming. Be prepared. Now is the time to start thinking about this. Book a call with Chris because he's going to kind of give you, I think you're going to open up a world to them they haven't even thought about. I'd say 95% of marketers aren't even thinking about this. I remember this time right before ChatGPT 4 came out, and I was at a convention and I was one of the keynote speakers there. And I asked people, they're just marketers in the room. I asked them, hey, how many of you are using AI like ChatGPT or Claude? And there was probably 500 people there. I'd say 10% of the room raised their hand. Hadn't even used it in their marketing. This was only a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we're at that point again where there's not a lot of people thinking about what you're optimizing for AI models, even though most people now, I think, are shifting to those types of models, especially on Google. It's almost automatic for me. When I search on something, half the time Google pops up with some sort of AI answer.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Chris, with that, we're going to close things up. Great subject matter. You're welcome back anytime. Let me know if we have any major updates in the next 3 to 6 months, and we'd love to have you back.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed the discussion.
Likewise.